Okay. All right. Good evening, fellow commissioners and audience. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Commissioners regular meeting for the Sanitary District of Michigan City, Wednesday, February 26, 2020. And so I want to start by call to order. I think we have 3 commissioners present. Mr. Wright and Mr. Ettinger are both not present right now.
No, we are.
No, you are present. Sorry, what am I saying? And with me, so we have a quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to ask for the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020.
I make a motion.
Second.
Aye.
Minutes pass. Anything like to give the public a chance to give comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing that there's none, we'll move on. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. The opening of the quote bids for proposal on the GAF fence quotes.
Okay.
To start with.
First, you have to ask if there's any other quotes.
Is there any other quotes? Any other quotes? Any other quotes? Seeing that there's none.
Okay. On the, we have these 3 different quotes that we're hoping to open today at the meeting. One is for a GAF fence. The other one is for the trees and shrubs for the GAF. These are related to the Cheney Run project. And the last one is a concrete demolition. We did receive one quote that wasn't labeled, so we're not sure. We think it's either a fence or a tree, so I'll probably open it up now during the fence quotes, and if it's not for the fence, then I've already opened it. So we only have one. I don't think there's any other quotes for the fence that I could see. Just this one from Vectran Industrial Security in Hobart, Indiana. In typical fashion, we usually let our attorney read the numbers, since we can't really count on our accountant to read the numbers. I was going to try to find the quote page for you, but
The excuse me, quote is for $179,418 even. 179,418 even. And that's the quote.
You'll need to download.
what's going on here? What'd you say, Jim?
Nothing.
Because I'm going to open up the other one that is a mystery envelope. Find out if it's for fences or not. It's neither one.
That's industrial pre-treatment.
It's neither a quote or and it's actually a monthly report from one of our pre-treatment industries. So that's why it wasn't labeled. Okay, so there's no more fence quotes. So now I'm on to the trees and shrubs. Is that okay do we need to ask if there's any quotes for that?
Yes.
Is there any quotes for the trees and shrubs? Any quotes for trees and shrubs? Mike, we don't have any, so go ahead and open it up.
Okay, we have 2 of those. The first one is from Cardinal, and they're at 708 Roosevelt Road in Waukegan, Indiana.
The quote, excuse me, is $9,845 even. 9,845 even.
And then we have one from ServiceGate, which is, they don't have their address here. I think they're in Michigan City.
their quote is for $11,270 even. 11,270 even.
Okay. And those are the only two for the GAF trees and shrubs, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you want to move on to the concrete pad demolition?
Yes, sir.
All right. So are there any additional quotes for the concrete pad demolition, the former Seneca property? Seeing that there isn't, go ahead, Mike.
We have one quote. It's from Woodruff. Looks like it's at the bottom.
There's two items. Total quote for item 1, total quote for
Yeah,
item 2.
maybe you should read them both off.
Okay. Quote for item 1, $5,745.88. 5745.88. Quote for item 2 is $6,320.88. 6320.88.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Item 1 is for the demolition, and item 2 is for the removal and disposal, just for...
When I have the board approve, you
Yeah.
take them under.
What I'd like to ask the board is that we take all these under advisement, and maybe we could try to move forward with the tree and shrub quote and the demolition quote, if that's okay. The fence quote, I think we're going to have to look at that a little bit further before we can move forward with that.
I'll make that so said motion.
Wait a minute. The trees and shrubs, there's two quotes.
Trees and shrubs and the demolition.
All right, but there's only one quote for Vector, for a fence.
Fence.
Right. But what okay, but it came
You say you want to proceed with what?
So what we want to do on this is probably, and Holt, I'll ask you to remake that motion, just make a motion that staff review the GAF trees and shrubs and concrete demolition pad for the former Seneca property,
And
correct?
what I'd like to do is get approval from the board to also just go ahead and move forward with both of those projects. They're really small,
Yeah.
not very large projects. But the fence coming in at $179,000, we thought that was going to be closer to $100,000. So I think we would want to wait before we would approve that.
Okay.
We want to come to the next board meeting and give you a recommendation.
Okay.
I'll make that motion
Okay.
But you get,
with regards to GAF
on the trees and shrubs,
Right.
you have to, it has to be awarded to the lowest responsive quoter, since you have two quotes. So,
So, well, okay.
I'll make that motion
Yeah.
responsive to the best of the quotes that were given as determined by attorney and staff and Michael. I'll make that motion with regards to trees and shrubs.
Is there a second?
GAF.
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go to the concrete pad demolition for the former Seneca property. I'd like to have a motion, please, to have staff and attorney review that as well.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
and awarded it.
And
award.
and award the bid. Sorry about that.
And second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
And then the fence, we'll just review it and we'll come back to the board at the next board meeting.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Scott Kistler, financial report.
Hello. Hey, Scott.
That's just great.
I'll start by reading the cash balances as of January 31st, 2020. The operating fund had $755,384.33. The improvement fund had $842,895.03. Vehicle replacement had $134,995.58. And the equipment replacement fund had $695,380.51 for a total in that bank account of $2,428,655.45. The SRF Indian Springs project had $7,758.85, and the SRF Whippoorwill project had $423.60 for a total in that bank account of $8,182.45. The SRF debt reserve had $497,857.10, and the SRF bond and interest had $249,430.33 for a total at BNY Mellon of $747,287.43. Stormwater at $437,472.72. The refuse fund had $1,071,886.90. Special revenue had $12,598.76. The levy excess had $8,522.14, and the rainy day fund had $81,307.78. The Carwick remediation had $827,065.82, and the total cash balances were $5,622,979.45. Month on month, the operating fund went down a little bit. We actually had 3 payrolls in January. So that was the reason for that decrease. And just on the vehicle replacement and equipment replacement, we made those debt payments in February. So those numbers will come down at the next meeting. And that's about it. Do you have any questions? Okay. And I put in your packet 3 budget performance reports. The first one's the operating, and really there's not much to talk about. I mean, it's first month, and it looks like the budget's, in line with being 1 month. I also put in the refuse fund, so you can kind of see the budget, and you can see this one changes monthly, so this one I'll start including in your packets. And also, the Controller's Office has made a change, and Michael and I sign both the refuse and stormwater and send it to the City Controller on a monthly basis, so they know we're keeping an eye on the budget. So, and then stormwater, really there's only 2 entries a year, one in June and one in December, which is the big chunk of the budget. It's to reimburse the collections department. It's roughly $450,000. But so I'll probably only show you this again in June, unless something happens with like Cheney Run or something, or if something's out of the ordinary.
Which one are you going to show again in June?
Stormwater, because we have that big entry twice a year, and that's really about the only time that. And then there's something else that's not on the agenda that I'd like to pass out, and this is a resolution approving the purchase of 3 CNG fueled dump trucks, and also for the financing to pay for those trucks. And just so the board knows, Steve Stanford put together a really nice memo on the grant match funding options, and actually we got 3 quotes for financing, and we asked for capital leases basically of 4 to 7 years, and the lowest, and we've talked internally, we're probably going to go with the 4-year rate, and I believe this financing might be coming from Germany because it's Mercedes-Benz Financial Services, and their interest rates are actually inverted. So like the 4-year rate is actually higher than the 7-year rate. So it's like 2.72 for 4, and it's 2.61 for 7. But we would like to go with the 4, just so we can pay it off quicker. And also the grant will probably finance the entire $562,577 you see in the resolution. And we're going to get a grant of $140,644. So, which means that the total cost to the district will be $421,933. But that grant will probably use to make pretty much the first lease payment. So that'll probably cover the first lease payment.
So I'm just assuming, Scott, on this, the reason why you want to go with the 4-year because of the get it paid off sooner. But if you went with the 7-year, is there any?
We asked them. We did ask them if we asked them if we could finance it 7 and then pay it off over 4, and they sent us back kind of a.
It's really complicated. You can't do it. Technically, they won't let you do it, but you can pay it like all off except for like a small amount that you have to keep in like somewhere else, and then you have to pay it at the end of 7 years. And it was, you know, not that we couldn't do it, but it was really pretty complicated. And
basically, they were going to penalize you for, you know, since the rates are inverted.
Yeah.
It's unlike here where you know usually long-term rates are higher, so that they don't mind you paying it off earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
In this case, it's
you don't need to.
It does have prepayment.
Yeah, that's why I was
Rarely worth it.
Yeah. And really, I did a quick calculation. I think it was $8,000 between.
okay.
You know, or it might have been more. I think it was like $20,000 if you add up all the interest expense over the 7 years at 2.61 versus the 4 years at 2.72.
Okay.
So it just made sense to do it. So
Yeah, the memo was actually in your packet. I was going to talk about this. It was on the agenda, but it's okay. We can talk about it now.
okay, so
You don't need to really find the memo. You could read it if you want to, but you probably already looked at it, but it's in your packet. But what we're asking for is the approval to purchase these 3 dump trucks with the grant match funding of $140,000 that we're getting from the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust. And then we would like to do the lease instead of just purchasing them outright. We would like to lease them at the 4-year rate that Scott described, so.
and the operating fund is going to pay for them, but they'll be reimbursed by the refuse fund because they're going to kind of be shared by both. So we're going to finance it through the operating fund.
So this will not be defined as a capital outlay. It'll be defined as a capital lease.
Well, it's a capital. It basically is a capital outlay. It will be ours at the end of 4 years.
Okay.
What do we usually get on a dump truck? I mean, how many years service?
Well, the 3 we have currently are, I think, 1999.
Okay.
It's in there.
21 years, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right.
So.
It's time for new dump trucks, really. They're really bad shape, and you may remember that we went to the mayor and the city council before, and it was put into the budget, and then it was actually in the budget to come out of casino money, riverboat money, but then when Mayor Perry got into office and they looked at the budget and he said we got to take a little break on the capital expenditure. So I wrote him a memo and told him that we will just forego that money and we'll try to pay for it ourselves through a lease here in the sanitary district ourselves.
Okay.
And so I think that's the way to go. And the interest rates, get so low, you might as well just do it. And like Scott said, they're going to be for refuse and operations because we share a lot of things. So we'll probably pay for half of it out of refuse and half out of operations or some percentage like that.
Sure, maintaining the trucks we have now costs something as well. So it's just.
Oh, yeah. They're not even really hard. They're technically, I don't want to say they're not roadworthy. Mr. McCoy, might disagree with me and say they're roadworthy, but they're not. If they're roadworthy, they're barely. There's time for new dump trucks.
And they are going to be CNG too.
Yeah.
And we did another analysis, which I'll probably bring to the next meeting, and it looks like the CNG fuel cost is about half of what diesel is.
Okay.
for about the same mileage. So, because we actually will be getting a credit on, we had to do a gallon equivalent based on the natural gas usage out of the CNG station.
Okay.
So I'll bring that hopefully to the next meeting.
Any other questions from?
What happened to those trucks?
With this particular grant, you can't use them. Again, you have to destroy them.
They get destroyed.
Well, you could use the body, but you can't use the engine. Because what it's about is about clean air, and we're trying to, that's what the purpose of it is for clean air emissions. Well, the Volkswagen mitigation is a little different, but they still have this program called Diesel Wise, and what Diesel Wise is, it's been around for a while. We've gotten several grants from Diesel Wise for vehicles and for our refueling station. And it's about clean air, so they took this Volkswagen mitigation money, as you may know or remember. The Volkswagens were the ones that were lying about the emission testing, and there was that big lawsuit, and Indiana got a heck of a lot of money, so they came up with this program to distribute it around. So if you wanted to use the bodies on the trucks, you could, but the engines you can't reuse them because they want them to be clean, fuel efficient, vehicles.
Understood. There'll be surplus equipment and you'll have the portal boats, I assume.
Yeah.
To get rid of them.
The engines, I think, actually have to be destroyed, though. So
Right, you gotta
drill a hole through the engine block,
Right.
so somebody else doesn't
They go
go
with
and
the
pollute
truck.
the environment with this polluting engine that we have already.
Okay. If there's not any other questions, Holt, do you have any questions?
No, it really just doesn't seem wise to not use that $140,000
Yeah.
of grant money.
Yep.
To, basically pay, 25%? That's a heck of a coupon.
Yeah, and I hope to have a, rate of I think it's going to be a 3-year, 4-year payback, on the fuel savings. So, but I'll have that for you at the next board meeting.
So anyways, we're asking for you to approve us to purchase these vehicles.
So I'm looking for approval of resolution number 1414-20.
I don't have any questions.
No. Should I make the motion?
Sure, I'll second it if you do.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And that's all I basically have for you. I'm going to stay up here because I believe Charlie's.
Yep. Charlie, you want to come up? So our annual insurance review with Charlie Keenan update.
Good afternoon, board.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourselves?
Good.
Enjoying the weather, as always. So I put together a summary for the board here.
Thanks, Charlie.
Michael wanted me to do the 2-hour presentation, but I told him that was probably a little excessive, so. You already have yours.
I begged hard.
PowerPoint's everything, right?
Of course. Okay, so I put together a very, I'll be brief with this. It's somewhat detailed summary. Just a little bit of background, so if you turn to page 1, I just outlined the scope of services that General Insurance has provided to the sanitary district over many years, as well as...
Actually, page 2.
Sorry about that, page 2. I forgot the cover page is actually 1, so thank you. I won't go into detail on the scope of services, but they include risk identification, the insurance procurement, which we'll be focusing on today, the insurance program administration, claims advocacy, and risk management assistance. So moving on to the page 3 is just the service team, myself, and 3 other folks dedicated to handle specifically public entity accounts and utilities. So there's a team behind me. I'm not the only one here. So, and then page number 4, we'll get into kind of the meat of the presentation, the insurance procurement side of it. 7-year loss analysis. So I put together just a loss analysis, specifically the sanitary district. Didn't break it out in great detail. It's just more of an aggregated report based on loss claims that the sanitary district has had over the last 7 years. So if you look at the total 7 years, there were 48 claims reported. Total incurred losses, which includes any reserves. A reserve is something that an insurance company expects to pay on a claim. So when a claim comes in, they put a reserve number on there. So total incurred and reserved $794,832 over 7 years.
64,000.
764,000.
I apologize. I think I'll put my glasses on. Which equates to roughly a 58% loss ratio. The loss ratio is calculated simply by dividing the total incurred losses by the total premium. Any questions on the loss?
You said during our meeting that we had that anything under 60% is actually pretty good.
Correct. So 60% is kind of the break-even point for insurance carriers. So insurance carriers, of course, have expenses, and that is roughly 40% of the total premium. And I'm averaging that over the industry. Some companies are a little higher, some companies are a little lower. So 60% is break-even point for insurance carriers.
And then also the year 2016 was that auto accident that we had that is, the outlier. Look at the rest of our data, it's a lot better than 60%. Did you ever calculate up if you took that 2016 out what the percentage was?
I did not,
Okay.
but it'd be significantly lower. So yeah, there's one auto loss in 2016 that accounted for the majority of that loss of the total losses in 2016.
So that 60% that you're calling break even, is there an industry average?
Yeah, and that's what it is. 60%
Okay.
would be the industry average
Okay.
for expense factors. So yeah. Again, some carriers a little higher, some carriers a little lower, and it does vary year to year as well. So,
Yeah, it looked like we had, from 2019 to 2018, we had 2 less claims, but they were more costly in 2019, correct?
correct.
And this excludes the workers' comp, too.
Right. There's no workers' comp in these numbers. So this would just be property, automobile, and your liability lines.
How do you do that ratio again?
Just take the total losses and divide it by the total premium.
The premiums aren't shown.
The premiums are not on there. That's
So
correct.
it's like 1.4, the premium?
No, the premium last year was...
Premium
Yeah.
last year was 199,217.
Correct.
Oh,
Page
okay.
5.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's go on.
Yeah.
Go, Charles.
So then on page 5, he presents we asked him to get some quotes from different insurance carriers. So on page 5 presents what we paid last year from Travelers, and then Travelers Renewal, Trident, and then Liberty Mutual.
Correct. So Travelers came in with a pretty strong renewal, in my opinion. So overall, a 4.7% increase. 2.7 of that is exposure increase. And when I say exposure increase, I mean things like increased building values, number of vehicles, higher payrolls, higher revenues. Those are what drive premium dollars.
So, these 3 trucks that we just passed,
Yes.
do you figure that into the premium? It'll be a different premium than what the older trucks were, I'd suspect.
Yeah, so it'll be slightly higher because they're newer, but we're getting rid of 3 and we're adding 3. So net total units is the same, but obviously values are a little bit higher on the physical damage side. So yeah, it'll increase the premium when, and we make changes throughout the year and the expiring premium reflects those changes.
But travelers will pick up these new trucks immediately.
Yes. So we'll get right into that. So some of the advantages that Travelers has over these other two options is they composite rate their vehicle, the auto. So we don't have to notify them immediately of any auto changes. Just any vehicle that the district owns is automatically covered. That's how they work. That's how they work it.
All right.
They can technically audit it at the end of the policy term. They usually don't.
Okay.
Just because it's been pretty consistent over the past few years. So it is a nice feature of Travelers. We don't have to worry about notifying them in a timely fashion. And yeah, so that's one of the advantages of Travelers. So
So a number of units are still, what, 70?
well, we have, yeah, if you go to page 7, we have 68 power units and 4 trailers for a total of 72 if you want to consider the trailers. The trailers have a different rate, that's why we broke them out. They're obviously a lot cheaper to insure than the power units.
Well, we've been pretty happy with Travelers. They've been good to work with, and I think that the difference between the Travelers renewal and the Liberty Mutual option, I would certainly say let's just stick with Travelers. But then when you look at Travelers and Trident, there's a little bit of a difference there, but about $20,000 difference.
Correct.
So it'd be a savings of $20,000. However, we have had. We haven't had very many, but when we have had a couple of backups of sewers that were things that we felt like, we were responsible for, and Travelers did cover those claims. Where Charlie was talking to us yesterday that Trident, he feels there's going to be a lot more strict on that, not as willing to maybe cover those claims. And we do have a good working relationship with Travelers, so it is certainly a little more, but you might get better service at the end. You might end up actually paying less by going with Travelers than with the Trident, but that's certainly, that's what Charlie was trying to say yesterday, and I tend to agree with Charlie, but that's not my decision. I'm just trying to give you my 2 cents.
So to add to that, Trident is going to adjust these backup the sewer and drain type claims, even though we have very few of them. They're going to adjust them by the book. So versus paying a claim and then, let me back up. Versus denying a claim and then having somebody file suit and get it paid through the liability side through a lawsuit, Travelers will, if there is any negligence whatsoever, they'll concede and pay the claim because it's going to be cheaper in the long run for everybody.
We've had that kind of good fortune for a few years now, right, with Travelers?
Yeah.
And Cincinnati prior to that.
We liked Cincinnati prior to them. They were great, but the thing about them is their rates went through the roof.
Yeah, their rates on the heavy autos, i.e. garbage trucks and dump trucks, have gone through the roof. Their results have been bad, so they had to increase rates. So, I'm disappointed that we couldn't get something competitive from them.
It's not very often you get to see a decrease option in initial costs going in.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say, just because the marketplace is competitive in nature, that's probably this isn't a written rule, but probably an introductory price. I mean, I can tell you, Argonaut's not going to go down next year. They're going to look for an increase, assuming, even though claims activity may be good.
And with that in mind, it looked like Cincinnati from the previous year didn't go down to our Travelers prior, correct? I have last year's.
Correct. I think we're still under. We're probably still under what we were paying with Cincinnati 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah. I looked over last year's stuff. Okay.
They're all the carriers I'm presenting are financially strong, financially stable. They have lots of reserves to pay claims. Nothing from that perspective. I just think there's some value in building a relationship with a carrier. What's that worth? It's hard to put a dollar amount on it because we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
I spent some time in the insurance industry, and it's worth its weight in gold. In my opinion.
I would agree with you.
Just a couple of things. I'm matching to last year's program that I dug up. There's some employee benefits liability deductible of $1,000.
Yes.
With travelers.
Correct.
It looks like to me, or there used to be 10,000 in 2018 and 2019.
Okay.
So that certainly is a nice improvement. $1,000 deductible as opposed to a $10,000 deductible.
Correct.
However, employment practices liability coverage looks like it went from $2 million down to $1 million. I'm just going right down that line. Maybe you could shorten anything. Is there any specific?
Yeah. So okay. There are minor differences between every program. There are no real significant differences in between the Trident program and the Travelers renewal program. Very minor differences. Some things higher here, some things lower there. And these are kind of an enhancement type coverage that really no claims ever get turned in on. So again, it goes back to significant changes or differences. There are no significant changes or differences. The only difference between the two programs is the coverage. So if you look on page 6 of 9, the property coverage. So expiring the Trident, we're quoting at the expiring limits of $57,941,000. And those are the building and personal property limits. The renewal for Travelers, we increase it 2%. Of course, we go back to Trident and have them increase it 2% too. But really, that's really the main difference.
Between Trident and Travelers?
Correct.
Okay. What about the deductibles? Are they match?
Exactly the same.
All right.
I'd be happy to go line by line on this if the board wishes.
Did you make a decision now because our insurance expires in March?
I think
I'm almost there. Hang on.
let me give Colton another minute. He's our numbers guy, so.
At any point in time in the future, you guys want me to broaden my spreadsheet and give you line-by-line comparison for the last 5 years, I'm happy to do that. But usually it's more detail in these meetings than anybody wants to get into.
Yeah.
And the amounts.
Well, the cost is certainly a $20,000 difference.
Yeah.
I did budget for an increase, and we have it in our budgets. So we have I did budget for that amount.
I believe I have the proposed budget here. Just one more second, please. Do you know what line that is?
Yeah, it's
Proposed budget?
just a minute. It's actually two of them because refuse pays a portion of the auto. It's on. Well, the refuse one is.
There it is, insurance.
Yeah, on page 2, and it's 79, roughly. Well, it's roughly 45 there, excluding workers' comp, because we're not covering workers' comp here. And then on
50, 75, and 60.
yeah, and that subtotal it's
120.
it's 200,000. See, if you take out workers' comp on the operating, The total insurance budget is $275,528. You got to back out the workers' compensation of $78,528. So you get roughly $200,000 insurance there, another $45,000 in refuse. So yeah, I budgeted basically $245,000 in total.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Certainly having a relationship in insurance is essential. You usually do also get what you pay for in insurance. And I would be, you have any questions or concerns
No, sir, I'm
with going with a more expensive yet?
I've got the insurance part of this.
Okay, seemingly,
All right.
I'll, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm good. I'll make the motion that we go ahead and one other thing. Mr. Meyer, have you reviewed this and you're okay with?
Yeah, this is, you can go with whatever you deem is the best.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we go with our travelers renewal of $208,571 for our liability, our property and casualty risk consulting and brokerage services. Perfect. A contract with the idea that we really watch it real close to see between us all that we get exactly the benefits that we want and have had in the past. Anything to add?
I would just like to add, Charlie, I want you, I thank you for comparing the three.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to see that again next year. Sure. Just so we have a comparison to compare what these may go up to.
Sure.
Or what happens with them. Okay.
I will go through the same process I did this year.
Okay.
Great. That really
Thank
was
you.
beneficial. Motion stands.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Sure.
Leave me a copy. I'm going to have Gary.
Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Okay, good news. It's always nice on this topic. We have no recordable injuries in January. And furthermore, we've gone 146 days since our last recordable injury. So I think that's noteworthy. Some of the things that I'd like to cover in addition to that. If we look at the digester gas distribution system, Michael will speak more about that. Before we start the system up, we'll have a walkthrough inspection, a pre-startup safety inspection to make sure it's everything's up to snuff and we're ready to go. And so Michael will speak more about that. Another thing, if we look at on the handout that you have in your package on 5 Bravo, 5B, we talk about the preparation began for the annual chlorination, sulfonation, preventive and predictive maintenance project. That was completed today, and it was a very successful undertaking. And this is extremely important for the safe operation of our chlorination and sulfonation system. As we know, we've covered in the past that within process safety management there are 14 elements, and the elements are all sort of interconnected. And so contractor safety falls in very closely here with mechanical integrity. And those are two very, very important elements within process safety management. And so quite a bit of work that we have to do beforehand to make sure that our contractors are qualified and competent to perform the work that needs to be done. And so we have Living Waters that does that, and they've done it for years, and they continue to demonstrate excellent performance. Another thing that we're responsible to do is to have a good orientation with them for the actual contractors who show up on the job. Many times we know that when we do contractor safety work, we can have someone who reviews it at the front office at a contractor's firm, but it may not be the actual employees that show up, to perform the work. So our chief mechanic, Kevin Van Sickle, sits down with them and reviews with the 4 individuals that were on site today, made sure that they reviewed all the information that they received ahead of time that we sent to them, reviewed again the emergency procedures and all that they need to know about how to work safely in our facility. That was completed. At the conclusion, OSHA requires us to have an evaluation, a contractor evaluation. They don't specify when that's done or when that should be done. Many times it's done on an annual basis, set down as a team and say, well, how did this contractor do? And then complete an evaluation and then send that out to the contractor. We feel it's best for both Living Waters and for us to have that conversation right when the work has been completed. That way we can all learn on how we can improve. What do we need to do better and what do they need to do better? So that was excellent. There weren't any notices there that where we needed to really improve, and we didn't observe anything that fell outside of acceptable limits for them. It was excellent. One thing that was very noteworthy was that they commended us on the way in which we maintain that equipment. They say that when they go to some other sites, they don't see that. And these are chlorination and sulfonation systems. And so they really commended us on the way that we maintain our systems, the way that we perform our maintenance, and our housekeeping. They say it is among the best. So I felt like it was important to bring that out today.
Among or amongst?
That would be amongst.
Amongst the best.
And whilst we're on the topic, you like that, Steve?
It's a little brown hair.
It's a little inside humor here. They're all the time busting my chops about among and amongst. Okay. Back on the important topic. So, what I'd like to cover also today, you saw in your packet that we have a safety goal. And this is something that's new for us. We have a safety policies handbook. We've had it for many years. In the safety policy handbook, we have safety covered in many different sections, the appropriate sections of that. But we really don't have an overarching policy or a set of principles that we use as guides for action. So really what this safety goal does, it brings all that together in one umbrella. And I'll just read from something here that I have some notes on. That really what it does, it's the sanitary district's basic health and safety philosophy. It's the general responsibilities of all employees, accountability to work safely, and that safety and health shall not be sacrificed for expediency. Also covers continuous improvement that will occur through results-oriented and action-based objectives. And then what it does, it shows and demonstrates clearly management's commitment to ensure that this is carried out without exceptions. And how we'll do that is that one of the primary activities, this new policy, goal, will be implemented with Mr. Cuss leading departmental safety meetings. And he'll present this. At the conclusion, we'll ask employees to sign that they have read this and understand it, and that they fully support the principles. So all of us will sign that, saying that we're all on the same page, that we agree that we're going to follow these principles that we have listed here. And so I'll just read this very quickly, what the safety goal says, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. Provide a workplace where safety and health are considered first and integrated into every part of our work by fostering safety and health culture through collaboration and constructive dialogue among all levels of the organization, and continually improving our safety and health systems, programs, and activities through results-oriented and action-based objectives. And then personally holding ourselves accountable to work safely, as well as encouraging our coworkers to work safely. To achieve our safety goal, we'll have objectives with action plans, and they'll be developed, implemented, and maintained among all departments. And that's essentially what Mr. Cuss will cover with each department, and hopefully it'll foster some good constructive conversation about that. And we're off and running.
Great.
Any questions on anything I've covered in the safety section, or?
Regarding the safety goal, I would like to thank you for all your work on that, but didn't you also collaborate with Jeff on this? Wasn't it something that you guys got started on together?
I did.
So I wanted to thank Jeff for, I think he brought that to your attention.
He certainly did.
You were talking
Thank
about
you, Jeff. Thank you.
You were talking about our handbook. You were talking about our personnel, our
Right.
personal
Right.
policies handbook. And
Yes.
you were saying throughout that, I think you accidentally said safety handbook, but it's our...
The policies
It's
handbook.
our policies handbook for employees, and throughout there's spots where it talks about safety in many areas, and what I think Jeff brought to the table, which I want to commend him for, is that we don't really have an overarching goal for safety or a mission statement or whatever. So this was an effort that they worked on somewhat together, and I think Jeff spearheaded it. So I wanted to thank him for that, and I think it's a good thing. And then one other thing I wanted to point out here, Dan, is on your report on item G. It's on the second page. I just wanted to point out that we try to work together with all of the various departments throughout the city collaboratively, and once in a while we'll share Dan's expertise and his abilities when we can. And this is an example here where he worked with the city's personnel director and looked over a detailed review of each of the city's departments' 300 OSHA logs. So that's another thing I just wanted to point out to Dan, that and also point out about the sanitary district, that we are our own department and so forth, but we like to work collaboratively with the other departments throughout the city and help where we can. So
Great.
Pleased to do that whenever I can.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Before you go, I have a question. You bring a contractor on site. Somebody takes them through some kind of safety expectations, some kind of comments on what they're expected, how they're expected to work safely on the site. Do they sign something that says that they have been instructed on how we expect them to work safely on our site?
Currently, only with the PSM process. That's the chlorination and sulfonation process.
Just with that process?
Just with that process. That's the only place that we do that.
Should it be expanded beyond that?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll work on that. Okay. Any other questions?
Not for me. Oh, Jeff?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jeff, for your good work on this safety goal. Let's do project updates. Weaver Consultant and Engineers.
I don't think there's anybody here from Weaver, so I'll try to give an update, and maybe if I get anything wrong, Mr. Stanford could chime in. The project is basically about where it was last time. Everything's been graded and seeded and so forth with the grass and cover over that, and everything seems to be working really well. The lift station's collecting the leachate and pumping it to us, and we're treating it just fine. And we just talked recently today about the next step is we need to plant the trees and the shrubs and different aspects of that we have to for our permit with the DNR and so forth. And I think they're going to plan on doing that, in April?
Late March, early April.
March or early April, they plan on doing that planting. And then, as you know, we also have this amenities contract with V3 for putting in trails and other amenities for fishing and different things like that. So what we're trying to do is push that along as much as we can so that we can identify where pathways are going to go on Carwick, so we're not planting a bunch of trees and then coming in and ripping them right out and then moving them. So, but the other thing that we have to do is we have to plant so many trees because it's construction in the floodway, that part that's in the floodway, you have to have a certain density of trees. So whatever we carve out for a pathway, we've got to move that and increase that in other areas, but we're working on that pretty well. I think it's going really well. And I'd just like to say again that, you know, the project's not done yet, and when it's final done, I think everyone will really see, but Woodruff has just done a great job out there on that Carwick site, and it really looks nice, and we get compliments all the time. I have some local citizen came by the other day and told us we hit a grand slam home run out there, so, and it's not even done yet, so we'll see what happens. So that's the project update. We have an invoice here that we'd like to, you know, it's on the docket and so forth, but these bigger projects, you know, we like to go through these. We'd like to get your approval for $439,790.23 invoice for Woodruff. It's been reviewed by staff, and there should be a verification form that's signed off by both Mr. Stanford and myself, and we'd like to get your approval for that.
I make a motion that we accept Woodruff and Sons pay request number 7, invoice number 80800 in the amount of $439,790.23.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Passes.
Aye.
Okay, and then, can I just go on?
Yep. Keep going, Mike.
The next one is the Cheney Run project. I don't think there's anybody here from V3. Project update there is that we had a pre-construction conference on February 12th, and construction commenced on February 19th. Now, as we've talked about many times about this project, I'm kind of, okay, I guess I could just go to the next line. Negotiation with the property with GAF. We've made some more progress on it. We're dealing with a large corporation whose headquarters are out here in New York City, and they are making sure they're watching, you know, they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and we actually have made some progress on the agreement. I think we're just about ready to have it signed, but there's a couple of exhibits that they want to have in the agreement, and we got them the way we thought they wanted them, but then they asked for some changes. So it's my understanding those changes to the exhibit should be completed hopefully by Friday of this week, and then hopefully we can get the agreement signed early next week, and then we'd have to set a date for closing, because even though they're donating the property, we still have to have like a closing, and then, you know, so it's official. That's where we are there. But you might be saying, well, how could we start construction when we don't own the property? Well, first of all, a portion of the property where this project is taking place, we do own. But then the part of the property that we don't own, the large part of it, we have a 75-foot easement from the top of the bank on both sides of the bank, so it's 150 feet from the top of each bank. Easement on the Cheney Run channel for maintenance of the channel, and it also, that easement runs all the way along Trail Creek to the edge of their property. So on the part that they own, we have this large easement area. So what we did was we started the project, and I contacted GAF and actually wrote an email to them, plus called them and made sure they were aware of what we were doing, that we're exercising our maintenance easement to get in there and do the work, and we're not really doing any work necessarily on their property other than putting the dam across to stop the flow and the sediment trap weir. And then we were going to put a rock bridge across Trail Creek. They were going to put 2 large pipes in Trail Creek, or maybe even 3 large pipes to carry the flow through. Then they were going to dump some rock, and then they were going to use that to get the equipment across Trail Creek from the Carwick side. Well, HRP was the contractor that was the lowest responsible bidder on the Cheney Run project. So instead of putting the rocks in the pipes, they actually rented a bridge from someplace in Pennsylvania, and it's like a steel bridge with wooden planks that go across, and they brought it all the way in, and then they set it in with a crane and just set it down and anchored it down. So they didn't have to do any of that rock and pipe work. So we're doing that, and again, that's all in the easement, the dam, and sediment trap weir. And the sediment trap weir is already installed, and it looks good. And so some other work in that easement area, that's all we're doing. So we're hoping that we're anticipating that work is going to take about 3 weeks or so for them to finish. We're hoping that maybe we could have the closing in that amount of time so we get the other property, because there's a little concern about they're renting the bridge for so many dollars a month, and they don't want to have to, rent it for more than the term of the contract, so. But that's that. There's a pay request from.
Before you go
okay,
on,
sorry.
Has the small subdivision been approved by planning?
The small subdivision has been approved by planning, but it needs to be recorded.
Okay.
It's my understanding from talking to Skylar
I mean, we
today.
were going back and forth for a while, for
I
whatever
think it
reason.
was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay.
The last meeting, I wasn't really up to speed on the project, and you guys, the board, allowed us a certain amount of time to get up to speed. Just wanted to say thank you to the board for that. And Steve and Mike, I want to be on the record to just say thank you to those guys for putting together a presentation that was really kind of over the top, more than what I would ever ask for. But I'm thoroughly acquainted with the project on both sides, of what's going to be built on both sides, and the financials of both sides. So I just wanted to say thank you for accommodating that request.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys for doing that.
Not a surprise that it would be an adequate update from those two gentlemen.
Well, we wanted to bring them up to speed.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Okay, so we have this pay request from V3 for $4,450. Again, it's been reviewed by staff. We have a verification form that's also been signed off by both Steve and myself, and we request that the board approve payment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Motion passes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And then next is John Doyle, so I don't know if John wants to come up to the front and get some limelight on the camera.
Oh, yeah. Definitely need that.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. On the street alarm project, started work a couple weeks ago. The water line on the south side has been relocated and tested and so forth and back in service.
Drinking water line.
Drinking water. On the north side, there is another drinking water line and also the sanitary sewer force main. It was necessary to get the water line on the south side back in service in order to maintain pressure and service in the area. So Woodruff & Sons is working on the force main. They've not made the ditch crossing yet, but they have put in some the pipe on the east side and the valve configuration on that side.
And that's for the sanitary
Yes.
part?
It has not been hooked up yet to the force main itself. They will do the similar on the west side and then connect the pipes and test the whole system with the exception of the connections to the actual force main. And that's probably be next week, depending on weather and so forth. Once those things are passed, then we have to shut down the existing force main and we have to pump the lift station or the pump station. That'll have to be done by pumper trucks that the sanitary district has. I think you have 2 in service now, or
Yeah,
will have.
We'll have plenty of trucks, John.
Oh,
We
okay.
have more than 2 in service, I believe.
All right, well, that's fine,
Two
because
that
we
are gonna
need
be-
3.
We have 2 that are getting, okay, you need 3, then we'll give you 3.
Yeah, all right. But anyway, probably within 2 weeks it'll be done. Once the force main is done, then we'll go back and do the water line.
Great.
So I said that Woodruff was doing an excellent job on the Carwick project. How are they doing on your project?
Well, I don't know if I should really say what's ahead here. They're doing fine. They did a good job.
All right.
We
Great.
have a large ditch that they managed to get under, and they're doing great.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Boyle.
Tim, you're next. Haas and Associates, Southgate Neighborhood Stormwater Improvement Project first.
Good afternoon. For the Southgate project status, work is on hold until suitable weather moves in, so D&M has not made any prediction on when that's going to be. Maybe next month, maybe not till April. Other than that, they've been maintaining the gravel pavement out there, grading it every so often. I just checked it the other day and it was very passable. We have, unless there are questions on the project.
When do you anticipate starting again, do you think? You don't know?
When the weather
Okay.
is suitable, you know, the work in the street is mostly paving is left to do.
Okay, so that's probably looking at May.
Well, the paving companies typically open their doors somewhere around April 15th.
Yeah.
And then, you know, by the time they get to those kind of jobs, it's more like May, because initially they're trying to get highways, you know, ready and things like that after winter. So yeah, probably in May. But as far as the backyard work, which you know, that's about that's where they still have to lay pipe and things. If the weather is right and the ground conditions and moisture content in the ground is right, that could be prior to that. They don't want to get in there. It's real clay soil and so forth.
I
so
see. Okay.
If they get in there when it's too wet, it's just going to be a mess.
Okay.
A real mess.
Okay. So we have a pay request?
Yeah, we have a pay request for Haas & Associates for the amount of $5,821.70.
Yeah, we've reviewed that and signed off on verification of services, and I would request that the board pay this pay.
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Go ahead, Tim. Keep going.
Jim has the...
Okay, the Long Beach Sanitary Sewer Project on Lakeshore Drive, the status report. On February 5th, a meeting was held involving both town and sanitary district officials and attorneys, and the main subject of discussion was project loan repayment. And the results of the meeting were that everybody on Lakeshore Drive, north side and south side, they will all get a sewer lateral to their property line, and they will all have to pay project debt service whether they connect or not. And as a result of that meeting, Carl Sender, the financial consultant for the project, revised his analysis, and the preliminary engineering report was revised. The report is complete with the exception of an agreement between the district and the town, and then 4 resolutions that are standard resolutions. And once those items are included in the report can be put out for public viewing, and a public hearing can be held, and then the results included in the report and submitted to the state for review and low interest loan financing commitment. And we had hoped that that submittal to the state could be on March 20th, but and that would mean we have to hold a public hearing between now and then. And we need the agreement between the town and the district and those resolutions.
So who holds the public hearing? Is it Long Beach or the district?
The district.
All right.
I would suggest that
Public
it be
hearing
held
for
in
the
Long Beach.
SRF loan.
Okay.
Just want to add a little bit to this. The town of Long Beach did pass a resolution. I don't know if this is one of the 4 that you're talking about.
No.
Okay, well, they did pass a resolution to basically adopt the Sender report, if I'm saying it correctly, and pursue this project, move forward with this project, which will require everybody to pay the debt service on both the north and south side of Lakeshore Drive, and then I guess if you connect in, you'll have to pay the sewer service also. I also met with Mayor Perry yesterday about this project and explained the project to the mayor and what was being proposed, and explained to him that with the sanitary district would be taking over the operations of the sewers and the lift stations, and maybe even incorporating that into our sanitary district boundaries, and also that any upgrades to our service, our current existing equipment, there's Shoreland Hills, if I'm getting it correctly, lift station, needs to have some significant improvements, and that's going to be all paid for by Long Beach through the SRF loan. Now, we will take out the SRF loan probably in Michigan City's name, but there will be an agreement, sanitary district, sorry, but there will be an agreement by Long Beach that they'll be responsible for all the debt payment totally, and then that'll be put in to the monthly bills of each one of the people that are connected or that have a lateral to their home. We already have this type of thing already with Indian Springs, as you guys know, and Whippoorwill, when we get the reports of those where we charge the people for the debt service. We have the SRF loan. Let's take Indian Springs. We have the SRF loan for Indian Springs. They put sewers out there. We charge them a debt service fee. We charge them the operational fee. We own the sewer, and then they pay us, and then we pay the SRF loan. So similar, same exact situation. So.
And at what point will Long Beach that resolution will be signed?
This resolution was approved by Long Beach already on, I guess, on the 21st of February, and
Just so everybody understands, in order to get an SRF loan, it's like going to a bank or selling a bond. You have to be able to demonstrate that you're going to have a stream of income that's going to be sufficient to make the bond payments. And there was an issue about whether or not they were going to require persons on the north and south side of Lakeshore Drive to connect, or only on the south side, and if they wanted to on the north side, and which leaves you with an ambiguity as to how much revenue you're going to be able to predict, which means the SRF loan, they wouldn't give you a loan. At least not any more than you can guarantee by the north side folks. What the purpose of the resolution, main purpose of their resolution, was to adopt the Center report requirement that everybody on the north and south side pay the capital fee on their monthly water bill. And I don't know if you guys have done the report or not, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood, a couple $100, I believe.
It's $127 a month for the people that are not connected, and then the anticipated for the average use would be $165 a month for the people that are connected.
But anyway, that's why they passed this resolution, and they want to proceed, as soon as reasonably possible. I'm sure all of you read in the papers about, if not actually saw, some of the houses falling in, their septics are exposed, so they're in somewhat dire straits, some of them. What they're going to be doing in the not too distant future is, under Indiana law 36925-15, there's a process for the district to incorporate areas into the district. It's not an annexation, it's just an incorporation, which would allow the district then to be able to deal with the homeowners directly. The alternative is, if you don't incorporate, then you'd have to have a sewer use agreement. You guys have seen those. I don't know, Jeff, if you're familiar with them, but it's a standard form agreement for anybody who's outside the district to get sewer service. It's required by statute. But you'd have to have that with all of the 200.
Every single home.
Yeah, every single homeowner. So, practically speaking, it would be better to incorporate. But that's a question and an issue that can be resolved down the road. I just want to let you know why, the purpose of this resolution, now that we know that they're going to be willing to require everybody who's on the north and south side of Lakeshore Drive to incorporate, we can proceed with the process to acquire the SRF loan commitment from the state. And that's the one that requires public hearings and whatnot. And there's other form resolutions that have to be passed in that regard.
Is our agreement with Long Beach or all the individual owners?
Long Beach.
So directly with just Long Beach?
Correct.
Okay.
Any issues of individual homeowners filing suit against us, bringing them into the district, or against what Long Beach is trying to do?
Under the statute, I mean, anybody can file a lawsuit
Right.
at any time, okay, so there's no guarantees. But under the statute, for a municipality, an area that's already incorporated into a municipality, if the council, in this case town council, passes a resolution and files a written request with the district, then it's up to the district to decide whether it wants to do it or not. You guys have to go through a process, there has to be a public hearing, et cetera. But no, there's really no
Great.
legal fight
Price
against
tag
it.
on the project?
Yep.
7 million?
7.3 million.
7.3 million, I remember yesterday.
Tim, is there, I mean, we did the analysis for both the north and south side, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember whether we just did, because we talked about
did both.
only bringing it up to a certain point.
Yeah, both
at
the
one
north
time.
and the south side, and we also made sure, as one of the things that I met with Mr. Mauer about, made sure that everything that they're doing would work for incorporating if the whole town wanted to get sewers. Okay?
Okay, that was the one report that we talked about
Yeah.
too, and then we asked about
Everything
that.
that they're doing would not hinder that. It's not like they're gonna put this in and then, when they wanna put sewers in the rest of the town, well, this is no good now. It's all gonna fit piece by piece, it'll fit in. And Mr. Mauer actually met with us on a shorter meeting, which he didn't describe here, to talk about what would be needed on those upgrades too. But I wanted to finish my point though, is that in meeting with the mayor, I explained about what we're trying to do now. I just called it phase one, not necessarily, and I said what we're trying to do now, and then about what I just said about hooking up the rest of the town. And he was supportive of the concept, so I just wanted you to know that. And I explained to him that, wastewater treatment, you're better off having one plant than having, 5, 6, 7 different plants. And we have resources. We have a really nice facility. We do a good job here treating the wastewater. So he was supportive of that. So brought all that up today. And I think there's going to have to be some other resolutions that are going to have to be drafted and so forth. And we would probably like to try to get those ready for our March 25th meeting. Is that...
So it's going to have to be a more detailed, right now there's like an MOU between the town and the district. Which everybody's approved, but we're going to have to get a detailed written agreement that's going to have to be approved by the board and by the town, which will give more specifics about this relationship.
I'm wondering about the risks. I mean, if the sanitary district takes the loan, is there a risk involved of us being stuck paying this?
Well,
is there a way to...
Theoretically,
quantify
the agreement will call for the town to guarantee the loan. Okay.
Long Beach to guarantee.
Correct. For the town of Long Beach to guarantee the loan. So if their, residents don't pay what they're supposed to pay, and there'll be, when you do these, I'm sure you've done it before, but anyway, you're conservative. So if if the financial, consultant tells you that if everybody pays, it'll be $100,000, well, you bank on about 70 when you go to get that loan, so that if somebody doesn't pay.
So there is some exposure to the district.
Theoretically, if the town of Long Beach went bankrupt, it could. But, I don't see that happening with those folks.
Okay, we have a pay request on this too.
Yes.
For $3,898.75. To have a motion to pay that request.
Make a motion to pay the amount on the invoice.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
Question? Do you gentlemen authorize Attorney Meyer to work on the agreement with Long Beach?
We just assumed that was going to happen. We don't need to make an agreement.
Okay.
He's the attorney for the district, so he'll go ahead and represent us.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll try to have all that ready by the March 25th meeting for anything that needs to be passed. And then we would set the public hearing for sometime in April, I'm assuming, for the PER, for the SRF loan, and then move from there.
Okay.
So would we just do the public hearing here?
Probably, it's what we did last
I
time.
would recommend
Well, but they want to-
Long Beach.
Right,
It's
I don't
pretty
think they want to
small,
include it in Long
yeah.
Beach,
Okay,
because that's where the
They've held
project's
public
going to be.
hearings at
That's
the-
right.
Like the Long Beach School or something.
at the school. Yeah.
They had a meeting with some of the district staff attended 2 summers ago, I think, and it
Right,
was
right, we were
pretty
there.
much was, I don't know, 150 people or something.
Okay.
It was a good crowd.
Just to let you know, the last time we did an SRF loan for the sanitary district and had our public hearing, there were 0 people that showed up. So I was thinking that if we had it here, maybe the same thing would happen. No, it's good.
You got
It's
to
all
have it where, in the
No, no,
area
no.
where the project is going to be.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
Tim Normandy in study?
Yes. Can I ask one last
Please.
question? Mr. Cusses, Indian Springs, are they in? Did the district expand there? No. So they're a sewer use agreement. Okay. All right. Thank you. Regarding the North End capacity study, we haven't made much progress lately. There are about maybe 30 structures left to survey, but the weather has been such that there's so much steam coming out of the manholes when we open them that we can't do the measuring and take the photos and things like that we need to do in there. So that's on hold until we can get in there and finish those last 30. I think we have 225 so far that we've surveyed, and like I say, about 30 to go. But as of about December 10th, after that, it was just too much steam coming out from the heat underground there in the sewers to be able to see. There are. When it gets to the right weather conditions to be able to do that again, hopefully soon, we will want to get together, and Michael, with your staff, and talk about some of the areas where we need some assistance. So other than that, I don't have anything else to report unless you have questions on that.
Any questions from either one of the other commissioners? All right, we have a pay request on this too for $14,500.
It's been reviewed by staff, and I'd recommend approval.
Okay.
It's for sewer flow capacity analysis, correct?
Right.
A little bit from December and January.
Yeah, well, what we've been doing is there's office work, a lot of office work associated with the study, so we've been doing that, but we can't complete the whole study until we can get those last 30 or so manholes.
Looks like from December 4th through January 27th.
Okay.
28th, actually.
I'll make a motion, invoice number from Haas and Associates 2019254-04 for the amount of $14,500.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you with the other district projects.
Okay, the first thing I had was this leave of absence for Laura Paskey. Laura has, she's currently on FMLA. She's had some family issues, and she's on FMLA now, so it's a little bit of a post-approval, but I'm asking for your approval to allow her additional time through March 12th, retroactive to December 19th for a leave without pay. She's a good employee. She works in our lab. She's a good technician, and she's just had some. I don't want to get into the details because it's private matter.
We'll be fine without her for a bit.
Yes, we will. We've been okay so far. But
Good.
Yeah, I'm asking the board to approve a leave of absence for her through March 12th.
So I'm
March 12th. I'll make that motion.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Motion passes.
The next thing I had was this memo about the funding for the refuse for the dump trucks, the 3 dump trucks. That memo that Steve Stanford wrote, and I guess he wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it to me. It's a very good memo explaining how the different rates and so forth that Mr. Kistler's already talked about. So I think we can just pass that.
Thanks, Steve, for putting the memo together.
Excellent report and memo.
The next thing we have is a DERA grant application, which stands for Diesel Emission Reduction Act. What we're asking for your approval here is for us to submit for yet another grant I think we found out today that it would cover 35%. And what we're looking at doing here is trying to see if we can't purchase 2 more refuse trucks. I did talk with Mayor Perry about this, again, not more recently, but this was back in January. He wanted us to look at some of those trucks that have the arm that picks up the can and automatic and just pushes it up. And I think it's something that we have looked at in the past many times. I think I might have told the story once here at the board meeting how some guy came in, because the big concern about these is working in the alleyways. It's really hard for them to work in the alleyways. This guy came in, we got this newfangled machine. It's going to be great. We'll show you. We'll demonstrate it in the alleys. And he's demonstrating in the alley, and the arm went right through some guy's garage.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the reasons why we haven't really had a large, trying to look at this, because most of our pickups in the alleys. But as I told Mayor Perry, is something that we looked at before. We do have routes that were, they're more, if you will, newer subdivisions and stuff where people are picking up their garbage on the street. So I think these would work. So anyways, what we're asking for here is your approval to submit a grant application to the federal government for their DARA program for 35% cost share on 2 new refuse trucks. And, if we were to get the grant, we would probably have to go through some similar type of funding that we went through on the dump trucks, because it depends when they come. I mean, these trucks take forever to build, so by the time they get here, we might be in a position where the city could help us out again with some capital costs through the riverboat if possible. But actually, this is just approval to submit the grant application. So
I'll make a motion to submit that grant application.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thanks, Michael.
You're very welcome.
Just on a side note on that, you do a lot, we have a lot of successful grants through the sanitary district with your efforts and staff efforts, and so I want to thank you for that, because you guys do save a lot of money for the city and the sanitary district by getting these grants. So thank you.
You're very welcome. If I remember, maybe the next board meeting I could update my grant summary.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, we have a lot. I mean, don't forget about our $600,000 brownfield grant. I mean, we're coalition on that, but we're the ones that put it all together. And that's coming along pretty well too.
There's a listing on your blue swag.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
A pretty good one.
Yeah, there is. Forgot about that. The next thing is a memo that I have. I'm going to try to paraphrase it a little bit, but David Hutchins is a IT technician that's been with us for many years, and he has decided to go get some training on his own dime. He's received a Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity. He also received a Cisco CNNA Cybersecurity certification and a Cisco CCENT certification, which are really high-level IT certifications. And what we'd like to do with this reorganization is we would like to move him into a position of Police Department Network Administrator at a pay rate of $22.47 an hour. And then we would also like to just remove the Assistant IT Director position from the organization chart, because that position really is not filled and really no longer needed. And also with the organizational chart, just one other couple little minor changes that really just on paper more than anything. We'd like to move the GIS coordinator and the 3 engineers, to report directly to the operations manager. Right now, I think there's like a dotted line, and we all work together really well anyway, but I think this might, on paper, be a little bit of a push that we might need for just to have a little better coordination amongst the guys, and although they coordinate very well now, so that's just more of a paper exercise. So I'd ask the board to approve a salary resolution. Should we do them separate, Jim, the organization chart and the salary?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
The IT Assistant Director we haven't had for some time, correct?
I think it says 8 months.
Okay.
We haven't had a person in that position for 8 months.
And actually, by creating this Police Department Network Administrator, we're actually going to be saving money.
We'll save 16,000. I mean, Yeah, when the position's not filled, you're not paying the position.
Correct.
But
this position is a,
Yeah.
okay.
This is a shared position with the police department?
What it is it's called embedding. We have an IT person, and what we were doing was sending someone over there, like almost every single day. So I got together with Andy and the police chief at the time, and I said, well, what'd you think about just, if you could give a guy an office over there, what would you think about we just embed him there? He goes there, so he just pretty much goes there to work every day. Now he'll come over here for staff meetings and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
Worked out pretty well.
And once a year, the district, well, it has, and they renegotiate every year an MOU with the city to share in the cost of, among other things, that position.
Okay. All right, so let's...
And I'd like to ask then for the board to approve the reorganized organization chart. I would thought there was one tech thing that was on here, manager, quality control. I'd like to ask the board to approve the reorganization chart that is dated draft February 26, 2020.
After reviewing, I'll make that motion.
Okay, should we do the first one, or do you want to do them together? Can we do them together? It doesn't
So you
matter.
should do the chart.
Yeah.
And then that makes the...
Got it. Okay, so
Motion for the chart to be approved.
second? All in favor? Aye. Pass.
And then now I would like to ask that the salary resolution,
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution number 1413-20 for the year of 2020.
Second?
before you vote on that, can I just say one thing, please?
Yep.
This is just the first page of the resolution. There's actually like 7 or 6 pages that go with it, at least in my packet. Is it not in there right behind the?
No, you're correct.
No, we just have one page. Mike.
Per se.
There it is, right there.
This is it here?
Yes.
Yeah. Just the front
Oh,
page.
okay.
All I was showing was the change in these salaries. So the resolution will have all the same other documentation about everybody else's salary and all those not footnotes, but those different notes that we have. Okay?
Okay.
If David Hutchins is really good, should we keep him here?
He's good, but Andy, we've got the IT department's doing a really good job. So
Okay.
I think it's where he needs to be right now. And he's,
Motion stands.
Hey, second?
Yep.
All right.
Aye.
Motion's approved.
And then the next thing I'd like to ask is we have, as I think you know, in 2012 we purchased a new video camera truck. I want to say to the tune of like $450,000, somewhere in that general area. And we had an older truck that we were trying to count on as a second video truck, and that's really never panned out. Our video camera and at times in our truck has had issues, and we have to send it in for repair. And when we do that, we really don't have a video camera and or a video way to look at these videos and record them, and it really becomes a pain. Once or twice, I believe, we've even had to call in like R&R Visual out of Rochester or something to do some video for us when we couldn't. But Jim Michaels went down to there was a conference, a sewer wastewater equipment conference, and they found this new thing now for $60,000 or $59,795 as a Q's. It's a camera, and it has the same recording unit, but the recording unit can be put like inside of a van or in the back of a pickup truck. And I think this is something that would really be valuable for the sanitary district's collection department to have. And so I'm asking for board approval to purchase this quote from BEC Brown Equipment Company for this Q's large standard package with the crawler and the drum and the video equipment for $59,795.
There's also
I'm sorry. And there's also a Hunter, the base station is $19,550. So
And that's the storage unit.
Yes.
For it, right? To keep
right,
it
exactly.
working, safe, dry. Just a quick question, and I couldn't tell by the picture, but how does that particular item get moved in and out of the back of a truck like this? Forklift? I mean, is there a way to?
We have some
underneath
really
it?
strong men here at the sanitary district. They're-
We have our safety.
Yeah, no,
Still here.
we got a new goal.
How is that move in and out of?
First of all, honestly, I don't know, and I also don't know how heavy it really is. It might not be as heavy as it looks, but we have a forklift that we could use to get it in there if we needted to.
So we could put it on a pallet or something.
We could put it on a pallet. We could put it on a forklift.
Okay.
We also have we could use a backhoe or something to hook it up there or something like that. I don't know that there's.
Use a skid steer with
Yeah.
the fork attachment.
Okay.
I don't know the exact answer to your question because I really wasn't at the training, but I'm sure if it got in the back of this pickup truck, we'd be able to do it safely without damaging.
Where are we putting this in the budget?
I talked with Michael, and we have money in the equipment replacement fund. So I was thinking,
Probably take it out of the equipment replacement fund and use it as a replacement to the old video equipment that we had, old video camera.
Okay.
I know the maintenance, and we have talked about it, or at least heard about it, many times, whether it be in written reports of issues or here at our board meetings, and I'm glad that we have something like this that we're turning to, at least as an option for us to consider.
Because you're recommending a sole source purchase, so.
We need to do a sole source purchase
Right,
memo.
but I assume Q's is the
Q's is our brand.
brand you already have, and this has to work with the brand that you already have, so you need Q's. And BEC, which is Brown Equipment Company, is the sole authorized distributor of Q's, so that's why you can do a special purchase without trying to solicit quotes and from anybody else.
So I'm 100% behind it. We would be using it for, we're putting together a new resurface kind of a program, and there'd be a lot of projects on there, and in every project that would have a sanitary sewer, we would use something updated to televise all of that. So,
And a lot of times, I think I've said this before at our board meetings. We're trying to video our whole sewer system in 4 years. Okay, we told the state 5 years. We're trying to do it in 4. But if we're out videoing the sewer for maintenance work, and then Jeff wants to know, hey, can you go video this over here? It takes literally like 45 minutes just to break this thing down and say that's a waste of time. So.
When I was on the planning commission, we requested you to use it for something that was broken at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We really need to update this equipment.
yeah, over the last 2 years, we've probably spent that much.
Yeah. So I'm going to.
Do we know anybody who's dealt with this particular product?
This exact product?
Similar.
I don't know. I don't know if we do.
It's the Q's camera.
It's the same camera.
I researched it. I was just wondering if we had it.
But I'm asking the board for the approval for the 59795 and the 19550, and like Mr. Meyer said, we'll do the special purchase memo and make sure it complies with all the requirements.
So moved.
One other question before you do that. Sorry. That's the chairman's preference. Warranties. What do we have for warranties on this or anything like that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know. We can look into that.
I didn't see anything on it, but yeah, I mean, I think.
How about then if I ask the board to allow us to look into warranties, and if we feel it makes sense to purchase some kind of extended warranty and a valuable price, then we'll move forward with that. Do we add that to the motion?
Yeah. Yeah. Can we do that? Oh,
yes, we can. So moved.
All right. Second?
yes, sir. Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
The next thing that I have, as you know, the Michigan Boulevard has that extensive median area in the middle that is a form of a green infrastructure for stormwater treatment. The sanitary district in the past has tried to beautify that by planting some perennials that come up every year. We planted several of those, and then we've planted the petunias that come up also. They're annuals, so they stay bloomed all year long, and some zinnias, and they always look nice. And I talked to Mayor Perry about this also, and he was fine with us moving forward with taking care of the maintenance of the medians again this year. The only thing was he asked that we get a quote for having a contractor actually plant the annual plants, and that's what this shows. And it's for a total of $46,648. And I would like to ask the board to allow us to enter into a contract with Servicescape. They were our contractor last year, so really this is just a renewal of that contract, with the only thing that's different is the adding of the planting, but it's actually less than what they quoted for us for last year. So.
Okay. I would look for a motion to approve the Servicescape planting of the boulevard.
I'll make that motion.
And the maintenance of it.
And the maintenance of
to
it,
the
too.
tune of $46,648.71.
Before,
I'm sorry, I should have asked if there was any questions. From
well, yeah, I kind of do.
So go ahead, please, Jeff.
Prior to a second.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to planting. I'm just wondering at what point does the sanitary, I mean, why isn't this a parks thing or some other department thing?
Basically what happened, Jeff, was that the city forester at the time and the vector department were trying to take care of this, and there was really no maintenance of it at all. In fact, one of the things on here is the irrigation system. They talk about startup and shutdown stuff. We won't even going to spend that money because the irrigation system is all broken and it doesn't even really work. But anyway, so in order to combat the weed problem, we basically just went out there with weed killer and killed everything. So then all you had, not on the top parts. I'm not talking about if you're familiar with the boulevard, there's a high level and then there's this part that's just like right on near the surface. Right. Those are the only plant spots that we ever really plant anything. And they just killed everything. So now all you had was bare mulch. So we, to try to make the city look a little nicer and so forth, and because when you don't have any plants, the stormwater that hits that just runs right off. So the sanitary district got involved with trying to plant the plants, and we planted a bunch of perennials that would come up every year, and then the annuals. So that's our tie into that, is that it's a green infrastructure, stormwater control with the median, with the planter area. That's our tie-in. But actually, I know it's something that's been discussed many of times about why are we doing this and so forth. And Mayor Perry, it's a matter of a budgeting issue. Who's going to take care of the boulevard area? And we've agreed to continue to take care of that median green infrastructure area, at the sanitary district, of course, with your approval.
Can I ask a question? Is the public allowed, or? I'm the liaison from the council.
Don, please.
Yeah. Well, my question is, if we're going to approve a contract, why wouldn't we go out and try to get, is there a legal requirement to go out and get bids instead of just automatically approving a $50,000 contract?
Last year.
They did it last year. Maybe there's another company that can do it cheaper and better.
Mr. Meyer could probably answer better than me, but let me take a stab first. Last year, we sent out a request for quotes for this job, and there was only one company that sent us a quote, and that was Servicescape. And it's my understanding, and Mr. Meyer can correct if I'm wrong, but if you have a contract, if you just want to pretty much renew the same contract each year, you're not required necessarily to go out for quotes.
Well, not so much that, depending on what the contract says, but also this is a service contract. You're not buying and they're not constructing anything. They're like mowing lawns.
And I could just say that if
the board, I mean, it's up to the board in the long run.
It's a little late right now to try to go out for quotes on this, because we could, I guess, at the next board meeting, we could issue another request for quotes and go out for quotes, but
when do you usually start?
Well, they usually, they're going to
taking care of the beds.
They're going to need to start cleaning, pretty soon. We had a contract. I don't have the whole contract that we had with dates in it and everything last year.
Well, I don't think you'd start planting flowers till around.
Probably. Well,
so you're looking at the end of April. I mean, you're looking into May as far as planting flowers. Otherwise, they die.
I'm not talking, but there's more to this contract, Councilman, than just planting. There's all the weeding and the cleaning up, and there's a spring cleanup, and they're probably going to want to get started sometime in March or April. But we could certainly, and one of the other things is that these contractors want to get locked in, because actually 2 years ago when we didn't have a contractor, we did all the work ourselves, we got behind, and we tried to find a contractor. We couldn't find one contractor. We finally found one guy that said he'd come out. He came out one day with like 3 people, and they never showed up again after that. They get everything locked up.
They're locked in doing their jobs
exactly.
that they already have. I understand that. But I mean, it's only January, February.
If the board would like us to, we could put it out for request for quotes if that's what you guys want to do.
Happens.
Well, I'm not opposed to putting it out for additional quotes, but it sounds like there's enough here to let's just hold on to it a month and make sure all the players are all on the same page with the council.
Send out a request for quotes, and we could have the quotes at our next meeting. And then, if you want to authorize us to enter into a contract with the lowest responsible quoter, we could definitely do that.
I think so.
Probably not a bad idea.
Sure.
Yes, very good.
Yeah,
Maybe that's up to the
That's not a
board,
bad
but
idea.
that's always been my train of thought, and especially with the financial situation that we're dealing with here. We're trying to save money wherever we can, so.
It's just, okay, very good. That's fine.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
Strebel Pond. We have this renovation, we talked about it at our last board meeting, this renovation proposal, and how to do the work, if you remember. What we need to do is send out a request for quotes for actually doing the work, and I would just like to get the board's approval to draft a request for quotes to send out for, similar to what Councilman Brzezinski was just talking about, for doing the work at Strebel Pond.
Do I hear a motion for that? Approval?
Can you just give me an overview of what the renovation project is?
There's the Strebel Pond was designed to capture stormwater, and over the years of its being built, it hasn't been really maintained. So there's a lot of unwanted species of plants in there that are taken over. So this would be going in there and taking those out and getting those out, and then making sure that you only have the proper types of plants that you want and maintaining those plants.
Understood. Okay.
The district previously hired
B3.
who did a study and said this is what needs to be done and this is what you need to plant in there. So there's a.
So is this a study or is this
No,
this is the actual work.
Oh, okay.
They already
Based
did
on
it.
the study that was done.
All right, I'm tracking.
It wasn't only a study, but they actually put together a maintenance plan that we
Right.
need to follow. And then I believe it also even has, things that we could take and just send out for requests.
So from that plan, we're going to price up.
Yeah, who's going to do the work?
Okay.
Exactly.
Understood.
So,
Okay. Yeah. Can I have that motion, please?
I would make the motion.
All right. Second?
I'll second.
Approved? All in favor? Approved. Go ahead, Mike. Thank you.
the next thing is the energy savings project and the energy savings report. In February, the February NIPSCO bill that we usually get early in the month, which really covers most of January and a little bit of February, showed a savings with the new calculated rate based on, what we did was we took our new rate and we took our energy usage and our power factors, power consumption, all of our old bills. If you base it on the new rate, we would have saved about $4,280 last month. And also, this longer sheet, it looks like this. I wanted to point out to you that the power factor for January, if you remember, I don't know why there's no date on there, but the power factor, after we put those new capacitors in again, for the peak was 99.96, and for the off-peak was 99.98. So, and if you remember, if you're not above, 95%, you pay a penalty, and if you look up there, you can see all the times that we weren't above 95%. So we're, after we put those capacitors in, I want to say it was last July or August, we haven't really had any problem. I think they went in August, so September was our first bill, 99.96 so far is the lowest we've had on the peak consumption. So, and also what we've noticed is the months when we use our combined sewage storage basin blowers were always the months that we had the highest billing, which makes sense because we're pumping more water, we're getting more water. We also found that those blowers were increasing our peak demand by turning those on. So if you remember, we started a new policy where we're only running those blowers, those aeration blowers, we're only running them in the off-peak hours. And we were concerned, well, how's that going to affect the wastewater plant? It doesn't seem to really be affecting us too much at all. So we turn the blowers on, in the evening around 8 o'clock, and then we turn them off in the mornings around 8 o'clock. And that saved us, I think, some additional money too. So I'd like to thank Ryan Byers for putting this together. Since he's been on board, I turned over my files to him, my spreadsheets to him, and he's been keeping up with this very nicely. So I find this very interesting.
Thank you, Ryan.
And the next thing is the annual report that we got from ESG that covered August 2018 through July 2019. The report was received, I believe, in September, and we have, I've been, talking to you about this since then. We've been going back and forth with ESG about this. We sent them a letter on February 3rd, I want to say, and told them that, we're not satisfied with their report and we're asking for compensation because we don't believe we're seeing the energy savings that they told us that we would like to see. And we told them we'd give them 30 days to agree to one of our 2 proposals that we had in there. And if they don't, then we're going to look to go to mediation. That's what the contract allows. So.
Okay.
Okay. I was going to do that down here, but
Okay,
just
any place, yeah.
so I just don't really want to get into all the details about all that right now.
Right.
So I'd rather.
So, yeah,
But we're not seeing the savings anywhere. We're not seeing savings we are seeing savings, as you can see, to the tune of what, $60,000 a year or so. But we're not seeing the kind of savings that we were supposed to be seeing. So we're pushing these people. We've been pushing them hard, and we're on pace now with the new rate to see $95,000 savings. Well, that's since the project. So annual savings of $54,000. So we should be seeing a lot more than that. Okay.
Okay.
Is that good enough, Mr. Meyer?
All right. So if we go into mediation, when does that happen? Do they have a month, 30 days to respond to you guys, or what are we doing there?
Well, if you go to mediation, you got to select a mediator. It's
right, but I mean,
it's more time consuming.
Excuse me, let me back up. Your 2 proposals that you offered to them, do they have 30 days to respond?
Yeah, March 3rd.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
The next thing is that I have on the list is the Bagley contaminated groundwater plume. They have, as I explained at the last meeting, they've come to an agreement with Bagley Cleaners. The lawyers did about the cleanup, and we have a meeting scheduled for March 4th to talk about the actual technical aspects of the cleanup project. One of the proposals is to take the groundwater that's contaminated and pump it into the sanitary sewer and treat it through our wastewater treatment plant, which we believe we can do without a hitch. But we need to have a meeting to talk about that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to update you on that. That's the update there. The South Shore oil release, I think maybe
before you go on, this is the Bagley release from basically 11th and Michigan. There's another Bagley release in what's called the station block between 10th and 11th and Pine and Franklin, which is being addressed with the district. I mean, not with the district, with the city. And then there's another release down on South Franklin or East Franklin. I can't remember the exact address at this point. So if you hear Bagley release, and actually there's already one being treated also on South Franklin, 2300 across from CVS. But anyway, this is the one for 11th and Michigan. And their redevelopment commission their attorneys recovered $1.8 million for them to use to pay for remediation. There's still a couple of other potential responsible parties that they're continuing the litigation against to try to get more money.
The next thing on, we done, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Next thing on the list is the South Shore oil release. We're requesting some additional information from their study. I'm going to not say too much more about that because when we go through the department by department monthly reports, Mr. Stanford's going to have a brief little presentation about 2 items, and that's going to be one of them. Okay. The digester electrical gas study report. We actually have this summary report in here from DLZ that says communication at the wastewater treatment plant with Andy Skiot and Adam Weatherspoon and Kevin Van Sickle about calibration of the gas meters and a final walkthrough. Basically, the entire system is ready to go. The only thing is we need to calibrate the gas meters. We have meters in there that will give us alarms and turn on fans and different things if we get high levels of carbon, of methane,
And H2.
and H2S in there, and it'll give us alarms, but before we can turn them on, we have to have them calibrated. And this is no cheap proposition, so it's gonna have to be calibrated. They're planning on doing that work on March 3rd, so hopefully, I know I said this at the last meeting, but hopefully, if you keep your fingers crossed, we could have this on the agenda one last time at our March 25th, 2020 meeting, and maybe we could have some kind of a little celebration if we finally get this project done and get it off the agenda. But it is a very important project. You know, I think I mentioned before about could it blow up? Absolutely, definitely, yes. You know, have digester buildings and stuff blown up before? Yes, they have. I don't really think it's going to happen. You know, we do have some other sensors in there and alarms in there now, and we've got people keeping an eye on it, but it's something that really needs to be done. It's just something that, quite frankly, is not up to code. So, and we do have a pay request here from Marquis Electric for $30,000 for that project. Been reviewed by staff, and I've signed the verification of services form. And if you notice, this is the final waiver of lien final. So we would like to have the board approve that.
So I'll ask for an approval on the Marcus Electric invoice of $30,000.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
The next thing we have is the White Ditch Cleaning Project. This is over by Sandin Industries between Friar Road and the CSX Railroad. We put out a request for quotes, or we had approval to put out requests for quotes for this project at our July board meeting. However, we were waiting on the IDEM water quality certification permit and then the Army Corps permit that will follow that. And IDEM was not willing to issue the certification because there's some wetlands that were going to be impacted more towards the CSX Railroad. We met with them on the 27th of December on site, and they said, look, if you limit the project from this point where the pipe comes out of the Sandin Industries pond to Friar Road, I can get you the certification. We still haven't got the certification yet, but we do have email correspondence with IDEM as of just this week that it's like internal for review, and it should be coming out anytime soon. So once we get that permit, then we will issue a request for quotes to have that part of the ditch cleaned, and then when the quotes come in, we'll have to figure out how we're going to pay for it, which, depending on how high it's going to be, that might be a big problem, but hopefully not, and then we can get the ditch cleaned. And we do have a request for our pay services here, a pay request for Weaver Consultants for the work that they did helping us get the permit for $5,746.37. And I've reviewed this and approved this. And if you notice, the fund source was changed to make sure it comes out of the stormwater fund. And I'd ask the board to approve it.
So I'd ask approval of invoice number 70170 for $5,746.37 to Weaver Consultants.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Motion pass.
The sewer maintenance policy, where if a contractor works on the sewers, they notify us. We've had that on there several times too. We did draft a letter, an outreach letter, but there was a little misunderstanding between Steve and myself. I wanted to just send a letter out to the contractors and saying, hey, here's the, because we changed the policy, if you remember, we made it more streamlined. We had a public meeting, well, not a public meeting, we had a meeting with the contractors. We took their input into consideration, we streamlined the policy. I want to just send it out to the contractors and say, here's our new policy. Steve took the letter and wrote it, and he was requesting maybe another meeting with them, and I think it would be better just to get the policy out and get it to them, and we can deal with their feedback as we hear it. So we just need to make a few tweaks to the letter. We anticipate the letter will be going out sometime in March. The blue swag, you've got your monthly report here with the blue swag. We had our meeting again today at 1:30. Just really a plethora of information that we go through. It's really, really good. We talk about these MS4 projects here. I think there's 9 of them where we do the work on the, I know MS4 might be the wrong word really. It's really stormwater associated with construction, which is really Rule 5. But as you guys know, in municipalities like Michigan City, we're responsible for also implementing the Rule 5, approving the projects and doing the inspections. And then item 2 is the update on what they're calling flooding projects. I really don't like the word flooding. It's more ponding and standing water issues, but there's several of those that are in the report, and there's actually even more that we talked about today. Ryan Byers and Tony Basil, our GIS coordinator, have taken a really strong lead on this, and they've come up with an interactive maps where you can look at the maps with each project, what they want to do. And Ryan had some really good, and Tony and everybody in our swag group today had a lot of input in that in those meetings. If any of you would ever like to attend one of our swag meetings, you certainly could. I guess as long as not more than 3 of them come to the meeting or something? 2. So if you guys would want to go, just let me know and make sure that only 2 of you show up. And then I do believe there's the top level grant management in here. It talks about the grant. Cheney Run, we've got $500,000 grant, a $650,000 grant, a $90,000 grant, a $100,000 grant, a $30,000 grant. So that's some of the stuff that we're doing just on the Cheney Run. So the land acquisition strategy grant. Actually, that was something that came up today at our meeting. We have this land acquisition strategy, and we found a piece of parcel, actually a pretty nice big parcel, right on the other side of the railroad tracks from the Carwood Nature Park, actually, or the Carwood dump site, where the railroad, I guess, doesn't want the property, is looking at wanting to donate it to the city. And this would fit perfectly in with this land acquisition strategy, because that's what's talking about acquiring land along creeks and rivers and places where you could be used for stormwater control, those 3 things. So we talked about that today. That was another grant that we had $36,000 grant on that. And then, so there's just a couple of highlights I wanted to hit there. And there's these tables in here to talk about funding, and the tables are hard to follow, but if you have a lot of spare time, you could look through all that. Can I move on then to where are we on this? US 35 sanitary sewer relocation for the airport. The airport, the Butler, Fairman, and Cypher people were contracted through the sanitary district, if you remember. They're planning on extending that airport runway, or making it over their road go underneath the airport runway and extending it for the Michigan City Airport. In order to do that, we're going to have to move some sanitary sewers. In order to move the sanitary sewers, we had to have an engineering firm design the relocation and spec out the products, and we'd have to go out to bid for doing the relocation. The way I understand this is we have to pay for everything up front, and then we will get reimbursed by the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, after we get the project done. So the guys from Butler, Fairman, and Cypher says, can we have a meeting? It's somewhat urgent. We want to talk to you about this project. And we get to the meeting, and they come in, and we're like, sure. Well, we'll come to your place. All right, let's talk. They tell us that the project's on hold now because
they didn't hit the grant. FAA didn't give them the grant for this grant cycle, and there's an annual grant cycle. So
the way I remember him saying it is they made some calculation error in the grants, so we're not going to be getting, the Michigan City's not going to be getting their grant for extending the runway this year and maybe next year. So we put this project on hold right now, but there was one outstanding invoice. And we did talk to him too about, would we be better off to just go ahead and do the engineering now, because costs might go up and stuff. And we all collectively agreed that let's just put it on hold for right now. And we do have this one invoice to pay, and it's for $2,891.50. And it's been reviewed by staff, and I've signed the verification of services form, and I'd ask that the board pay the invoice for Butler Fair and Cipher for $2,891.50.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Jeff, if you would take one of these and pass it on. This is an item that's not on the agenda, but I want to bring this up to you and get your approval if possible. You may remember there's the blank McDonald property and also some Homestead property, I think.
Homestead.
Homestead, sorry. And also the Autumn Creek Mobile Home Park. That they've been annexed into the city of Michigan City effective January 1st, 2020. And we need to provide sewer service out there to that area within 3 years of the date of annexation. Prior to the annexation, we contracted with SEH of Indiana, who has an office here in Michigan City, to do some work for a preliminary engineering report for how much it would cost to put the sewers out into that area. And I did not bring that with me, but my recollection was like $1.4 million to put the sewers out there. But we would like to look at potentially being able to qualify for an SRF, State Revolving Fund loan. And in order to do that, the PER that we have did not incorporate all of those elements into it, because we were just trying to get a general feel for what the cost for the sewers would be before the city agreed for the annexation. So in order to get the other elements into the PER, which is Chapter 5, Evaluation of Environmental Alternatives, Legal and Financial Management Capabilities, and Public Participation, they need to they've given us a proposal for $28,900 to finish that PER and make it SRF funding eligible or ready. And we've all, Mr. Meyer and myself and Mr. Stanford, have looked into this, and we feel that that's a very good, fair price. They already did the previous PER, so we're asking for board approval to enter into a contract with SEH to finish this PER up to make it SRF approvable for $28,900.
I'll entertain a motion for the PER.
Last couple of weeks, even up to a month, I've had some problems with SEH. Getting contracts in line for other things. So I'm a little bit hesitant to work with a company who's not willing to work with me to get something done.
Okay.
But one bad experience maybe shouldn't outweigh getting something else done more productive.
Jeff, I just want to, could I just make a comment to that, please?
Yes, please.
That, first of all, I understand what you're saying, and I hear you loud and clear. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, I didn't bring it with me to the board meeting, but we have a report, it's like about that thick that SEH already did. And for another firm to come in and try to finish that up, they might have to go back to the drawing board, because you're going to want to have one preliminary engineering report ultimately that you're going to be given for the SRF people. I think we're going to end up spending more money on it. Also, this is not an emergency situation, but I wanted to finish my point is that when we go to do the design for the project, we had already talked about in-house that we were going to, I know you were thinking about maybe doing some of the design work ourselves even, but we were even thinking about putting that out for quotes, for professional service quotes, instead of just automatically going with SEH. But in this particular case, and I know what you're trying to say, so I've had some examples of similar stuff myself, that for them to just finish this up might be the way to go. But we could wait. We could put it out for request for professional services, and we could have them do it at our next board meeting, and it's no big, massive rush, I don't think.
No.
You know, if you want us to do that, that's not a problem at all, sir. I mean, we'd be happy to. In fact, we were thinking about doing it anyway, but when the price came in at $28.9, we thought it was pretty low and reasonable, so we just thought, hey, let's just get it going and get it done.
I guess I'm going to agree with you. I think maybe we should do it. And on my side of it, this will be a test case if we can even work with SEH. And we'll use it as a test case.
Fine with me. I'm happy either way. You know, I really am.
So I would make the motion to approve it for the 28.9.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I want to add a little more to this, that I also did talk to Mayor Perry about this project also, about, you know, putting the sewers out there and what we need to do, and what we talked about, and of course the board would have to approve all this, just in general terms, was getting this PER done, and then maybe looking for a firm to do the design work, whether it's SEH or someone else, or maybe if we want to do it in-house, and then get that done, and then get that ready to go out for bids for a construction project. But then we probably wouldn't send it out until the city's financially ready to put the sewers out there. And what we talked about was, right now, we're not aware of any, you know, big company that wants to come out there and, you know, put 400, a company factory with 400 jobs or something. That's why I told Mayor Perry, I says, if we get everything ready to go, and all of a sudden someone's knocking on your door, boy, if I had some sewer out here, I could get a factory with 400 jobs or 600 jobs from Michigan City or whatever, you know, then we'd be ready to put the sewers in. And if we, that way we could get ourselves to that point. But if we get the sewers ready and there's really no, you know, great influx of somebody banging on our door wanting to put something out there, then we know we have 3 years to put the sewers in. So that was kind of our plan, and what I talked about then. He was supportive of that plan.
What we don't know is if there will be any restrictions by SRF. The reason we can get an SRF loan for this, hopefully, is because we'll be extending the sewer to the failed Autumn Creek mobile home park, and their treatment system is totally bad. So I didn't want to get a sewer out there to handle that. I don't know if they have any kind of particular timeline. They're under enforcement action, but I'm saying, other than what Michael said, theoretically that could have some impact on having to move ahead more quickly.
That's a good point, Mr. Meyer. Really good point.
But other than, you know, to qualify for the low interest loan, from SRF, we have to kind of
move it forward,
go along with them. Well, they may say it's okay, you can wait. It won't, you know, under any scenario, SRF would not require anything faster than at least 18 months from now. You know what I mean? They're not that demanding on timelines.
I see.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
So that's all I had. Then on the monthly reports, those are all there, and we're not going to go through every single one of them. But Mr. Stanford was going to give a short little, I would assume, total of maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, probably at the most.
I may suggest, with the lateness of the hour and the weather going on, can I just deliver a few prepared remarks about the South Shore problem?
Sure. He put in his packet, he went to some training, let me just say quickly, he went to some training on some pump repair, and we put the handout in your packet, if you want to see. He said it, he told me like 6 times it was excellent and very awesome, so he's just going to talk about the South Shore now there.
South Shore Freight.
South Shore Freight, yes.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And Jim.
I think we all remember this spill discovered back in July last year, and sort of how that went down. My first remark on this problem is that this is a state lead situation, because the South Shore is essentially violating a spill rule, which is a state rule that the state has to enforce. And as I understand it, the state's enforcement authority would be superior to ours, Jim?
Correct.
Although we have contributed to the process with our own notice of violation, and I will note that the South Shore Freight was very responsive to that. They paid the penalty that we levied. It was $2,500 in a timely fashion. That was described at last month's meeting. And the state required them under their enforcement activities to develop a statement of work to further investigate this problem. You see, because both the state and, I as a geologist are figuring that this sort of gas station release for the diesel locomotives has contaminated the subsurface, the groundwater, and the soil. And we know that it's heading south towards our property. This is a 19-page document. I only copied 2 pages for us here. The second page is the map that shows their sampling locations. They have 11 sampling locations indicated here, and I like these locations.
Are these the blue dots?
They're the blue dots on there. And if I was South Shore's consultant and I was writing this plan for them, I would have located these in similar locations. This is about what I would have picked. Reading through the plan in a little more detail, though, it's lacking some basic information that really belongs in a plan of this type. For one, they're wanting to limit the testing parameters to diesel range organics, which will give us useful information, but it doesn't meet the objective that they're actually talking about in their plan, which is to compare the results with risk integrated system of closure screening levels, because there's no screening levels for diesel range organics. So this plan was dated February 13th. I received it on February 17th. I wrote a review letter to the state project manager, Haley Fowles, with the district's comments, saying that we'd like them to add some more of this detail. We like the sampling locations, but we like to add some detail to this thing and test for a few more things, petroleum-specific chemicals, actually. And part of the reason we gave them for this is that this contamination is running downstream, and it's running over and through and possibly under Michigan City property between the rail yard and the creek. That letter was sent to the state on February 17th. And I think what I'll do is follow up with them tomorrow and see if they're going to incorporate our comments into their evaluation of this statement of work. And if they do,
is there any action taken to intercept the plume before, or is it already? I'm kind of new to this project.
They've been digging up a lot of contaminated sediment. And they've got an underflow and an overflow type weir thing to keep the oil from moving toward the creek in the surface water. But nothing's been done underground yet. These sampling locations are going to be soil borings, and they're going to tell us something about what's going on underground. And right from the beginning, I thought this was really important, and I'm glad they put it in here. I believe when you and I were inspecting them that day, this is something I explained to Ms. Coslett there at Northern Indiana. That you need to do this, and she agreed. And they put it in here, and I'm glad it's in here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the results are going to look like.
What happened, Jeff, was apparently, allegedly, or what we think happened is there was a release from their diesel refueling station, okay? And it may have been going on for a while. No one really knows that for sure. But it leached into a storm sewer that was owned by Nickety, Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District. Okay, and then that diesel fuel that was leaking into the storm sewer had a direct line right out to one of Nickety's outfall pipes, which discharges into a kind of a wetland. There's a little bit of a ditch you might be able to ascertain there that you could see that, but then that property is like owned by the city. So they did when the finally was discovered as the source. they went in, they being South Shore Freight, went in and put in a barrier weir with an underflow to capture, and they sucked out a lot of oil, and they put it in like frac tanks and stuff, and they hauled all that off site. So they cleaned up that. But
And that's continuing.
and that's continuing, but I don't think they're getting very much more oil through that stormwater pipe any longer. But what we're looking at here, and one of the things we put in our order that we sent to them was, we want you to do a study to determine the extent of this contamination and has it migrated down to our property. Because if our property is contaminated, our property being the city's property is contaminated, we need them to get that cleaned up, you know, and we need to know what's going on. So we put all that in an order of notice of violation to them. Then they came back to us and said, well, the state's requiring the same thing, so we changed our order up a little bit to just say, follow what the state's asking you to do. But this is where Steve is taking that extra step to, you know, well, we are together, but he's doing the work to look at what does the state require in their plan they submit to the state. Was it any good? He's saying it's good, but it needs to be better. So that's why we contacted the state.
Understood. Maybe we can talk later.
All right.
How about that?
Very well. Any more questions on this?
No, thank you, Steve, for your
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Okay.
Oh, you want me to give the tonnage report? No, I'm gonna close up my packet. I actually had something prepared for the tonnage report. In January, we had a total compact of 882 tons, and loose we had a total of 37 tons, and then grits and screenings we had a total of 170 tons, for a grand total of 1,088.66 tons. So one of the things we've decided to do is I have a little demonstration here for you, is that since we're getting so much extra waste throughout the city, we've decided to reduce the size of the receptacles that we're going to give out to the citizens. So this is going to be the new size that everyone's going to get, and we feel that this should really cut our disposal costs down. So.
Fewer injuries as well.
Yeah, it should be a big safety.
Wrist injuries, but no back injuries.
No, we went to a clean, South Shore Clean Cities conference yesterday. It was held here in Michigan City. They've been having it here every year. And they had vendors, and one of the vendors had these little things like put your pens in and stuff like that. So thought I'd bring it to the board meeting and give you a chuckle out of you guys. So that's the tonnage, and then I guess we're done with the monthly reports.
Great, thanks. Jim?
I really don't have anything other than what I already talked about with Long Beach and other things we're working on, as usual.
Thank you.
But I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Not at this point. All right, approve and allow revenue and tax levy claims for payment. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Approved. Old business? New business? Seeing that there is neither, we are adjourned. Next meeting is March 25th, 2020.